Welcome to the Underdog Draft Stream. We're going to draft a Best Ball Mania draft here. I'm your host, Neil Orfield. You can find me on Twitter at PlayerQDFS. If you've been around Stochastic for a while, you probably know my guest, Kyle Dvorchak, is here with me. You can find him on Twitter at Kyle Tweets here. Kyle and I haven't done a show together. I think we've only done one show ever together, which was Kyle was my guest on High Stakes earlier this year. Really great conversation. Check that out if you haven't already. And also, if you haven't already, you should check out Underdog. We have a fantastic deal for you here at Stochastic. When you sign up for Underdog using the link in the description of this video, you're going to get your first deposit matched up to $100. So if you put 20 bucks in, they're going to give you another 20 bucks. You put 100 bucks in, they'll give you another 100 bucks. And on top of that, you're also going to get the Stochastic Best Ball and Fantasy Football package for free. That's a $40 value. Comes with the CSV, Matt Gajewski's rankings for your Underdog Best Ball draft. That comes with the package. You get a CSV. You can upload it directly onto Underdog. It's a fantastic deal. Also, if you haven't done so, please do like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit that notification button so you can get alerts when our shows go live. Kyle, how have things been since we were on High Stakes together?
It's been good. Were we on the contrary together at any point? Because I know I showed up almost around the time like Alex was maybe getting married, so he wasn't on the show. So I think you filled in or something then, and that was the first time I'd ever met you. I might be misremembering this, but that kind of the story checks out in my telling of it.
No, I think you're right. I think that we've done a couple of shows, or maybe so. Last year during the football season, I was the host of On the Contrary. I took over.
Okay, then that's just what it was.
Maybe
I just
you were
came
just
on for a regular show you were on.
Yeah. So we've done at least a couple of shows together at this point. But it's been a minute since we have done a show together. Have you found any? Have you been chasing some great overlay? Have you taken down any qualifiers? How have things been?
Oh, they've been good. Still grinding. Like nothing super fun to write home about, but also it's pretty much dead season right now. Like the MLB streets are pretty non-overlay specific, and other than that, it's preseason DFS time. Outside of that, we're gearing up for the more fun stuff. And NBA's been gone for a while. PGA is still good, but it's quiet, at least for me too, which is good because this is like the only free time I'll get out of the year is this like beautiful 2 to 3 month stretch.
Right.
And even then, it's free is putting it, being a little kind. It's still busy for me, but it's not like the in-season grind. So I've been trying to take advantage of it, and especially knowing that even before the season starts, this final like 2 to 3 weeks is really where I'm going to be like trying to fire off most of my best ball drafts, because I haven't been doing hundreds. I'm still below 100. Okay, I'm probably close to below 100. Right. So and I'm trying to probably get close to like 300 or something. So even then, we're basically out of the summer break for me.
Yeah, I think I'm closing in on 200, probably trying to get to 400 or so total drafts. I'm not sure. I don't really set goals exactly. I'd like to max out Best Ball Mania, which I think I've done 56 of them so far. You and I will do number 57 right here. So we'll knock out another one of Best Ball Mania. I usually, before we start the draft, I usually give people a chance to talk up whatever they're doing. You're at NBC Sports Edge. That's where all of your stuff is right now. Is that correct? Or do you have any like side projects you're doing?
Nope, all my stuff is there, and I tweet all of it out. So if you're looking for something I've written, I'll have an article about running backs coming out probably by the time the show is live. So
nice.
There you go. Follow me on Twitter, and I tweet it all out.
All right, perfect. Well, we'll jump into Best Ball Mania 4 draft. And Kyle, if you haven't been following the way we've been doing it, is I'm telling people not going to ask for any payment coming in. I'm just not going to pay you out unless we win at least $10,000, and then I'll give you half of whatever our winnings are. Is that fair enough for a free roll?
That's a really good free roll just for your like time. Like imagine me hitting you up after the season, like, hey, did we actually min cash this one? Do you owe me?
Right.
Like,
yeah.
And like all of your guests are like, hey, actually, I think I checked. That draft was pretty good. We made $75. Like,
right. Yeah.
Imagine like everyone hitting you up for that.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like it's, you don't really need to worry about it unless, and if you get to the point where like you're winning $10,000, like I'm going to be paying attention. So, but like, I don't want to have to worry about like every single min cash is just not worth the time to do it. All right. We are filling up pretty quickly here. Actually, I wanted to, as we're waiting for the draft to actually start, I want to talk about your thread on tight ends earlier, on rookie tight ends in particular earlier today. I thought it was really interesting. So you tweeted out, in the past decade, only 6 rookie tight ends have earned a snap share over 60%, and none have reached 75%. For reference, last year, 31 tight ends reached 60% snap share, while 8 tight ends got to 75%. And then you added, 8 rookie tight ends have topped 60 targets. 21 tight ends reached that mark last year alone. Only 2 rookie tight ends have topped 80 targets. 10 tight ends did last year. So my understanding is that based on these tweets is that you're probably not into the rookie tight ends this year. Is that correct?
I actually don't mind them because like the sort of impetus of me tweeting that was like, well, let's see what those very few, and it's a small sample, so I don't want to like overemphasize what those specific tight ends, the 6, was something like Evan Ingram, Noah Fant, Kyle Pitts, some other guys. There are 3 other. It was literally like 6 in there. 3 others in there, and it was more about like this was the exploratory stages of an article I'll be writing that I'll probably have out later this week. But like, well, what are the ones that were the mold breakers? What were there commonalities between all of them? And there are some, like they were almost universally really strong athletes, like relative athletic scores over 9. They were all top. I think 107 was the lowest pick of any of them. So they were all either early 4th or earlier. All Power 5 school guys, not even just like FBS. They're all Power 5 school guys. And all of the rookie tight ends that we really care about actually check those boxes. Oh, and the funniest thing was they had like, no disrespect to Lee Smith, who appears on the list twice as the backups they had to beat out for Kyle Pitts as like the 3rd stringer.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah.
And Dawson Knox as the 3rd stringer too. But like the backups universally were really just not great.
Wait. We are on the clock here. We're on the clock here.
Cooper Kupp at 5.
You like Cooper Kupp?
I'd be fine with Kelsey too. I have no strong preference between the two. So you rip who you want.
All right, I'm going Cooper Kupp. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. I just wanted to make sure that we
good catch.
Are in agreement. Okay, sorry. So Lee Smith, 2 of these tight ends had to beat out.
Yeah, exactly. Like Hayden Hurst was 100% the best tight end any of them had to beat out, and the best tight end was the one beating him out was Kyle Pitts. So outside of that, I mean, there are guys you were just. Oh, Chris Herndon was. I don't know if you remember Chris Herndon. Like
I remember Chris Herndon.
Yeah, actually, I didn't get traded to the Vikings. Basically, his career kind of was coming to an end after only 4 years. Another one of the, good. I think he was the only non-good athlete, and it's because it is possible that it's because he was hurt going into the combine. He didn't. I think he measured, but didn't test the combine, and then maybe still hurt at his pro day, so he had some pretty bad numbers. But like. And these things kind of all check out. Like to be NFL ready at tight end, you probably don't want to have been playing against like FCS competition. You probably want to have been playing Alabama 4 times in your college career. Probably need to be a really good athlete. Like these kinds of things. And it definitely helps to have no one behind you on the depth chart. So I thought that there would be some more like prohibitive things. Like they actually weren't that great of college producers. Like Dawson Knox had almost no college production. Like, Kyle Pitts on the other end had really good college production, or I thought maybe it would only be the 1st round picks. But like Herndon and Cade Otton, actually most recently, were high 4th round picks. So I think the things that stuck out to me most was like they have to be good athletes and draft capital mattered, but not to it's only the day 1 guys or day 2 guys.
Okay.
And athleticism, the average RAS score for like the average NFL player is 7 point something. So it's not like they were all that much better, but that's probably like a standard deviation better than the average NFL tight end or something like that. So, and the guys that we're talking about, they have some of these characteristics, if not all of them. All the guys are like Power 5 guys. Most of them are good athletes. So I thought I'd be more pessimistic on us. Like we truly get less than one of these guys per year. It's like 6 tight ends in the past 10 years. I'd bet the over on 1.5 of like 60% snap share guys. I think I'd bet the over on that this year for rookie tight ends.
Sam Laporta seems like he's probably going to be the guy in Detroit. Is he? I mean, I guess if you're just taking the over, you're not trying to name them. You're just trying to let it fall and thinking that somewhere. But Sam Laporta seems like the obvious bet, right?
Yeah, I think it'd be him and Michael Mayer for me are 2 extremely obvious ones. I think for just the snaps, like we're not only targeting snaps, here. Right. Oh, Devontae Adams going a pick or 2 after ADP if he even goes now.
You see that we're not only fell to 14, which
this is a bit of a funky room we got going on.
Yeah, it really is. It's interesting.
There goes Devontae, but at 17, like I don't know, that seems pretty late.
Yeah.
I can't. Can we please get Tony Pollard here? He's really good at football. This Tony Pollard guy seems like he's pretty good at football.
Yeah, I would not hate getting Tony Pollard here. Pollard Cup start. I've done the Pollard Cup start before, but we get him. We get our guy.
Let's do it again, baby.
Let's do it again. All right.
He's so good. I really think there's like a very strong. I wrote about him in my running backs article. It'll be out later today or yesterday by the time you probably watch this.
Yeah.
He has like so many of the trappings of a guy who we're taking at 101 next year, or we're talking about him like he can be the 101. So
yeah.
Luke Musgrave, I think probably has better odds than Dalton Kincaid of hitting that like 60% snap share type of thing. But that's not really the bet you're making with Kincaid. So I would say Kincaid probably doesn't fit this bill, whereas the other three we're talking about do. That's not exactly an indictment of Kincaid. It is a little bit. I don't take much Kincaid, but
I don't take a ton of Kincaid either. But yeah, it's a little bit different because he doesn't necessarily need the 60% snap share in that offense. Like he could not get full snap share and still be great. Whereas like Sam Laporta in that Detroit offense probably needs a pretty good snap share to get there.
Michael Mayer and Luke Musgrave even more so, where like if Laporta comes in, he's a good red zone weapon, he's efficient. Like I think that offense is going to be pretty good.
Yeah,
Raiders aren't going to be a good offense. You're hoping he gets a ton of snaps and targets and is like a PPR scam or a half point PPR scam, and that's fine for how late he goes. I think he goes really late relative to like his talent profile. But yeah, him and Musgrave, like I don't have a ton of faith in what the Packers are cooking up this year. But if Musgrave goes out and plays all the snaps, their other option is Tucker Kraft or whatever.
right.
Not a terrible prospect, but most rookies aren't going to pan out. So if Luke Musgrave happens to be the one who does pan out, his path to 80% snaps is so clear because Josiah Deguara is like a true H-back, is their other only option.
Right. So we're back on the board. We got
I'm taking Jacobs here. He's not holding out. Like he's playing.
I don't think he is either. Yeah. This continues to be a weird draft, by the way. Do you see the Travis Etienne went 25 overall?
Yeah,
Higgins and Etienne surprised me.
Yeah, and this is a little bit of a weird draft. Nothing too crazy. It's not like, you see like the collusion drafts and you're like, okay, well, throw that one out. But this is, I like our start here. And I think this gives us a lot of sort of flexibility to basically just ignore running back. I mean, for the next like 8 to 9 rounds, we could do it.
Right, exactly. We've got our two. So full disclosure, I had my keeper league draft last night. So we have it's an unlimited keeper league, and so like you're kind of factoring in a little bit like young guys and stuff. I ended up keeping most of my team, but I ended up drafting with my first pick last night in like the 11th round. I got Sam Laporta, and I took Luke Musgrave late. So I was reading your tweets, your anti-rookie tight end tweets. I was reading them as anti-rookie tight end, and I was like, damn it, that's not what I want to be reading right now. Of course, I know like rookie tight ends are typically not getting a ton of work. And I think I actually read somewhere, somebody else that I follow on Twitter had tweeted about how the biggest reason for rookie tight ends not doing well, or one of the big reasons that typically rookie tight ends don't do well, is just that they don't get enough playing time. It's like it's not necessarily a skill thing. It's largely just they're not on the field enough to really have big games. So I was seeing reading your tweets like, oh no, that's not good if my guys are not going to be playing this year. But you think that there is some hope for these guys just based on their profiles, kind of matching.
They fit a lot of the reasons that the few tight ends that have succeeded, that I think they're strong reasons, like their athleticism, their pedigree. Yeah. And also one thing that I thought was really weird is they almost, outside of Dawson Knox, the other 5 had like really bad PFF blocking grades. Like they just weren't good blockers, but it didn't matter. Like it's better to play rookie Dawson Knox than to try and like figure out how to get Lee Smith involved in the offense.
Right.
So like it didn't really matter. They played a lot of blocking snaps. They weren't great at them. They weren't dreadful for the most part. And Dawson Knox is the one exception. He's actually a good blocker. But like that was not an impediment, which surprised me. I actually thought it would. And it probably is an impediment to other players. But for these guys, it wasn't like, oh, you had to be a good blocker.
Right.
What are we doing here? I don't take much Christian Kirk. D-Hop is fine.
I take a ton of Christian Kirk, but not here because you can always get him late. What I was going to suggest is we could take Mike Williams and then try to get that stack done.
I like this. I like that idea. Fine with me.
All right, because we just saw Keenan Allen just went. Where is Mike Williams? There we go.
Could also do the same sort of concept with DJ Moore and Justin Fields. I don't have a strong preference either way. I think I'd try.
What's your preference?
I'd go Fields more, whoever's by ADP. But if we don't get him in time, it's fine. That's fine.
I missed it.
It's fine. I think Both of them, I like this spot going with them in the draft. I think for me, it's more so that I don't have a ton of faith in Mike Williams, the
I
player.
don't
Like
really
he seems
either.
like,
I know.
but it's such a good offense to be buying the bounce back on.
Yeah.
So like I have used that as an excuse to like override my opinion on Mike Williams, who seems like, I don't know, a 2B type of receiver who's generally been thrust into like purely the 2 or even the 1 role at times. Like last year when Keenan Allen was hurt.
Yeah.
And like he put up good numbers when Keenan Allen was out, but his efficiency was pretty poor. Like he was earning targets at a lower rate on his routes. He wasn't doing a ton on a per route basis relative to like guys who can really step up and be their team's one. But like it's fine. He can be a high productive number 2 on an offense that like just 2 years ago, Justin Herbert threw for 5,000 yards and like 40 something touchdowns, I think.
Right.
And he's getting an offensive coordinator upgrade by a mile. So I have
Justin
no
Herbert
problem
was
with
hurt
this.
last year. So yeah, it's for me, it is like big time. I'm just buying into the offense, even though I'm totally with you. Like I'm like in general not a huge fan of taking Mike Williams like as an individual player, but sometimes I think like I overthink the setting up stacks versus just taking the best players thing. So I think I fall into that trap a little bit sometimes, where it's like, yeah, Mike Williams, he's down the rankings in like seven down the rankings, but like would set up really nicely for the Justin Fields. So maybe I reach a little bit to get my stack with Mike Williams. Now, if somebody takes Justin Herbert, that's just going to be painful. But
it is the worst because like not the only reason Mike Williams is fine, but one of the primary reasons you and I both don't mind Mike Williams here is like I just want to buy Chargers and I want to like stack this game up, and it's going to be brutal when this backfires. But we've got we should get it because this guy has a quarterback already. Joe Burrow goes at 51. And someone probably not a quarterback's going at 52. This guy already has one. So I think we executed this perfectly. Go team.
We got it. We got our guy. All right. I'm happy with this. We can add Quentin Johnson to our queue now. Maybe the next turn we'll think about. Or I should add. I mean, what do you think of Quentin Johnson? Like he's a guy, a decent guy to buy into. Maybe at our next turn.
He actually, like, I think has like some similarities to Mike Williams. He's definitely more of like the athlete after the catch guy, but like his frame is a lot like Mike Williams. And I wasn't super impressed with his college profile, but he's another one where like I'm not going to rely so heavily on my player take thoughts that I'm willing to override what is like clearly an elite quarterback getting an offensive coordinator upgrade. Like, and like I think the scheme change will be so good. Like, cannot stress enough how useless 100 and something odd targets to Austin Eckler are for anyone outside of Pat Kerrane, who needed all of them. Like for an offense, they're just doing nothing. They're not that much different than a good rush attempt. So to transfer some of those to downfield targets, which Justin Herbert is really good at, like I think it means a lot for a team's overall efficiency. Yeah, like last year, Austin Eckler got 5.7 yards per target. Like that's a good Alvin Kamara season on the ground, right? Like like that's J.K. Dobbins on the ground. And I'll still take any pass attempt to Keenan Allen on like how much does this help your offense play? Any pass attempt to Mike Williams over a really good rush attempt. That's just the way the NFL is built. So even if I'm not like in love with the prospect or the player of Mike Williams, Quentin Johnston, I think it's fine with me. I will say I probably mostly only take him with Herbert because I think he is more so a bet on the quarterback.
Yeah,
but it's a bet I'm fine making.
So okay, here I'll ask you. So we're not going to take him with our next pick clearly because that'd be far ahead of ADP. We'll see what's available with our following pick. But are you disinclined to take Quentin Johnson in a lineup where you already have Mike Williams because of their similarities as players?
No, because I don't think they're like competing for the same role. I think they have some similarities as like talents and like maybe that's been my
thought also is like even though they're similar, they're both going to be on the field has been my assumption. But I just wanted to confirm with you. Yeah,
there are players in which I do think like even if they're stylistically different, if they're competing for the same role, like Justin Watson and like Justin Ross or something like that, where they're like just completing, even like MVS and Justin Ross are probably just competing for the clear out guy role. And if I have MVS, even if I have Mahomes, I'm at least disincentivized to take the guy who's probably directly benefiting from MVS losing playing time. Like, I don't want to negatively correlate my team that much. I still don't think it's terrible. Like, you're not blowing your team up by taking Justin Ross and MVS. But, like, I do think their snaps are correlated opposite. Like, they really are going in different directions.
Yep. All right. So we are coming up. I mean, we could take Mike Evans, Michael Pittman. Mike Evans goes. Any particular position you want to look at here?
It would just be wide receiver or Kyle
Kind of what I was
Pitts. I don't
thinking.
have a strong take on the receivers. I would probably just go Pittman by ADP, but I also like Kyle Pitts a lot, so
We
he would
could
be
go
my
Kyle
pick
Pitts.
here.
I was thinking that we want a tight end, and it might make sense to take Kyle Pitts now and Quentin Johnson with the next one.
Yeah, let's do that. That's
All right.
my choice.
Love it. All right, I like that call. Man, I had a follow up thought, but I lost my train of thought with the pick coming up. But it's August, wasn't it? August when you a couple of years ago got second place in a baseball Millie Maker.
Yeah, it probably was. It was just
Coming up
before
on
the
like
NFL season, so just about August. Yeah,
2-year anniversary. Yeah, okay. Are you playing any MLB DFS these days?
still a little bit, but it's a sport that I probably run close to even with the rake at maybe I could I could get better if I really wanted to, but I'd rather be decent at it and just chase a ton of overlay whenever they're running satellites for the NFL Millie Maker and the golf Millie Maker. I can beat a contest where they're giving you 30% back, but they're not. We don't see that as much right now because it's kind of the dead zone of sports. So. Still playing, but it's usually just the late slates or something because pretty much the lobby is pretty much cleared out by the time. Take Quentin Johnson, easy pick.
So I'm with you. I'm a little bit I've profited a little bit in MLB, but it's last time I checked, it was I have a total of just under 3% ROI in MLB DFS. So that's on a lot of volume over the past 10 years, but just has not been a ton of money for me in MLB DFS. So at times I've thought about relative to NFL, NBA, I'm not sure that I think this is a tough game to beat. I think there's just I guess that's true of every game. There's a ton of variance and stuff, but it's not my favorite form of DFS. But that's also, kind of ebbs and flows based on how I'm doing. I think during my best seasons, I'm no, MLB DFS is amazing. I love this. Whereas, when I'm this year, I'm I'm kind of breaking even, treading water. It's not my favorite. Since we're doing an underdog stream, and I shouldn't even tell you this, Kyle, because I know you are such a value chaser, and I don't want to actually add more sharps to the drafts. But the underdog MLB drafts has actually been where I've done a lot of my DFS. I don't know, they don't call it DFS, I don't think, but you can do, they have the daily drafts for baseball, and I feel like they're much softer competition than DraftKings and FanDuel. So I've actually been moving a lot of my MLB volume over to underdog for the daily drafts.
Yeah, I mean, that makes a ton of sense. I've thought about so many times, I really think you could grind out a pretty, I mean, it's what Blender's doing. You are the co-host of Theory DFS, for the listeners who don't somehow know, is moving a decent amount of action to just grinding closing line value on the parlay prop sites Prize Picks and Underdog. I think some people call them forced parlays, which it's especially good, useful for those of us like me, who I live in a state where I can't sports bet legally, but I can do those. And there's probably a pretty good edge to them too, even more so than trying to go grind them out on actual sports betting sites, depending on what sites you have access to and what your limits are on those sites, especially what your limits are on those sites. Because you can have a great edge on any sort of prop you want, and you can get no money down. So where at least it seems the limiting, the actual limiting of players is not nearly as bad on the forced parlay type of sites. So
Yep. All right, so we are coming up. Got some interesting options here. It's pretty nice that we're going to have some wide receiver options since we went for a couple running backs early. I like that we're
and especially this person right in front of us has a bunch of receivers, so I think we could get. I'd like to see Treylon Burks make it to us a few picks behind ADP. I'm not so distraught over them bringing in DeAndre Hopkins that I think he can't break out. I'd rather him have that.
All right, he went
percent target. Right. Oh wow, they actually took Burks. So
what do
we got here? We could go
Michael Thomas,
Bateman,
Michael
Thomas. Terrifying pick of Michael Thomas.
Yeah,
it'd be Bateman for me.
I'm okay with Bateman. Or could Arias Tony fall in?
Thomas. I would want to keep pushing Tony's ADP. Maybe we're up again in 6 or 7 picks, and if someone's willing to take him before us, fine with me.
Yeah, no, I like that call. Oh, Sky Moore's down here too. Interesting. Yeah, we've got Sky Moore ranked.
That would have been a good one.
Yeah.
Well, I'd star up Sky Moore, and even Tony would be fine once we get him again.
And
You
more
know,
just went.
7, 8
All right.
picks after ADP or whatever.
Also, Michael Thomas came back to us. Like if we get any of these guys that we're talking about, I'd be Tony Thomas. The nice thing about doing these pre-recorded is that we don't have people just watching and then taking who we want to take every time.
Yeah.
That's the problem with doing live best ball drafts is you get people in your like they're like, all right, I'm going to join your room with you. And then the first one that I did, we had somebody literally like I think it was just me and Lofty, and I was like, all right, well, we're setting up really nicely for a New England stack. At the time, it sounded like DeAndre Hopkins was also going to New England. So we had DeAndre Hopkins, we had Juju. I was like, I think that this is going to work out pretty well for us, like this New England stack. And then I literally said, I was like, the only way that this could go south for us is like pushing the Mac Jones pick is if somebody decides to take both Tyquan Thornton and Mac Jones with their next two picks, like taking Mac Jones well ahead of ADP. And then somebody did. And then they were in chat and they were like, yeah, that was me. That was a good idea. I was like, damn it.
Hey, well, they got punished for doing that because it looks like Tyquan Thornton was like maybe just a backup, like fifth receiver on his team.
Yeah,
so
it is
karma comes around, buddy.
All right. So now we have our pick coming up. None of the guys that we really wanted to fall to us did fall to us. So
let's see if we got a receiver. So, you know, I'm still fine grinding out these receivers.
Who's at 102 ADP?
I don't want to take Jameson Williams. I don't want to take any of these guys.
I don't hate Nico Collins here.
Yeah, Nico. I actually like Nico. Yeah, I like Nico. It's a little bit ahead of ADP, but Boyd would be fun too. No strong preference. If you like Nico here, go for it because like he improved a lot in his second year. He was like not really getting a ton of like on the field action, not earning targets as a rookie, like really inefficient on a yards per hour run basis. And he wasn't elite by any means in his second season, but was a lot better. And it's a team that really like, it's just a lot of just a guys catching passes out there. If he's anything more than that, it could pay out pretty big dividends on his cost, even though, you know, he's risen a lot over the course of like the first BBM draft to where we are now, but I don't hate it.
I just remember what I was going to say 5 minutes ago when I lost my train of thought to our pick because we're talking. You brought up Justin Ross, and it reminded me the first time I did. I was a guest on a stream at Fantasy Points with Scott Barrett was one of the hosts.
I've done that one, yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I think I watched at least part of yours on there. And Scott Barrett, this was a month and a half ago, maybe, was they were telling me, oh yeah, Scott wants to take Justin Ross in every draft. He wants to take him as his 18th round pick. And at the time I was like, I didn't even know who Justin Ross was. I was like, I literally like don't know who this player is that you're talking about. And now he's going to like pick 180. Like he's really risen. And I did start drafting him on Scott's advice. I thought it was, you know, a good call. So I started taking him a little bit, but now I'm like kicking myself for not just jamming him while he was an 18th round pick. Although he's still like, there's still tons of questions there, but it's been pretty interesting to see him just shooting up boards with all the hype this offseason.
Yeah, I think like I want to take more Ross, but I do think he's a pretty good bet to be a zero for the entire season. Like, I mean, there's just like not really a spot for him on the roster, frankly, because he's not going to return kicks. I mean, he's never returned punts before. And that job is almost certainly why they brought Richie James in, or they could try and go back to Sky Moore. He's not, as far as I know, he didn't play like any special teams in college, and he's not going to in the NFL. So he's not like a gunner like Justin Watson is. And like, do they really want to keep, even if they keep him on the roster too, even if they find that spot when they're doing game day inactives, are they really going to keep the third to fourth field stretching receiver on the team who doesn't play special teams? And this is like, for Justin Ross, who I think was a sick prospect coming out of college, even though he had like the spinal injury condition and didn't really come back great his final year. He's like literally one of the best maybe the best age-adjusted season of all time. Like he had more receiving yards than T. Higgins and Hunter Renfrow, and he was like 18 or 19, and like over 4 yards per route run. It's truly an incredible season. I just think this is a bad spot for him. Obviously being with the Chiefs is great, but I think if there's like any other roster we could put him on, I just don't see how he like hardly even cracks the team at this point, which sucks because he's like could be really good. I'm not gonna say he is really good, but there was something in his past that you look at and you go like, oh, this guy could have been a star.
But if he shows it in the preseason, I could see him like I think there's a very wide range of outcomes. Would you agree with that, Justin Ross? Like if he does get on the field for the Chiefs, it's obviously a dream scenario.
Yep.
But as you said, like there's a real risk of zero. Like I don't even know like what percentage would you put it at at 0 fantasy points. All right, we can hold it for
Pick here
it is our
first.
pick now. I wouldn't like we could go Zay Jones, or we could just go like Samaje Perine. I'd be fine with. He fell to us at 116.
I'd go Brian Robinson over Samaje Perine.
Okay, Brian Robinson, or would you rather do one of these receivers? I'm fine with either way.
I'm not drafting Allen Lazard. Someone else can do that with their time and their money, but certainly not
Zay
me.
Jones
Even though
too.
this is literally not my money, this is a free roll for me. I wouldn't do that with your money.
Okay, well, yeah, that's I mean, you'll get paid out if it wins, so it could be your money. It could be your money.
Yeah, my potential money.
Yeah.
Yeah. What percentage chance is Justin Ross a 0? I mean, it's like literally like a 0 or like functionally a 0. I'm gonna say like 60 or more.
0 of at least. How about a 0 of scoring any fantasy points for your team? So like making it into your lineup.
Perfect. That's the way we want to phrase it. Because like, say he technically gets out there and gets 3.2 points in week 12 or whatever. I don't want to count that as a loss because functionally it was correct. Yeah, I'm gonna say like 60%. I think he's like roster bubble. I think he's maybe 50-50 to get on the roster, and then he still has to like find a way to get active on game days, which he could work his way towards because things are going to happen. They already have Kadarius Toney not guaranteed to play week 1, but so many more of those things need to happen. Yeah, I'm gonna say he's like 60% to not contribute a week to your fantasy team.
Yeah,
but like also kind of Justin Watson is that too, except there is no outcome in which I'm like, I made it to the finals and Justin Watson's on the back of my roster. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so glad I got this guy on my team. Like, if Justin Ross is playing snaps, like significant 40% of the snaps in week 17, and I have him in the finals, like I am hyped about that.
Yeah.
So like, there are so many guys who profile as like, do they make the roster or not type of players, but none of them like get me as excited as Justin Ross, probably close to it at least.
Yeah, no, I think that's a perfect Justin Ross assessment. All right, so our pick is coming up. We could start setting up either a Houston stack or a Rams stack, or we could just take the value. Zay Jones still available. I guess he's right at ADP.
As someone who like never drafts Zay Jones, I'm like, nope, don't care
really?
too much. What do we got? I just don't like. Maybe I should draft more Zay Jones. What do we have available to us at wide receiver?
So we've got Zay, we've got Rondell Moore. He's one of my highest drafted players. Michael Gallup, Darnell Mooney. I've drafted a ton of Chark, but he's also got an ADP that like we could wait a while.
Yeah, I'd start Rondell Moore. I'd be fine taking more, and then let's check out like the onesie positions, quarterback and tight end, real quick, just to see if there's anything. If we could go to 2 on either of them.
So we could take Schultz here, or we could wait maybe till the next.
No, let's do more. Or even if you want, go Zay Jones if he hasn't gone. I don't care either way. I like more, but he's few picks, 9 picks reach or whatever. So I would have been fine with either one.
Okay. I've just starred these 2 tight ends, not necessarily saying that we should. I'm just trying to get our, I like starring people ahead of time, just as a way of like reminding myself like what we could be working on. And I think if we wanted to set up either the Rams stack or the Texans stack, we could start doing that. But we've got a little while till our next pick now.
Yeah, I'd be fine setting up a Ram stack. Like, lots of cause for concern that we saw last year, even in the Stafford times or whatever. Like, Stafford was really bad when he was out there last year. But like, it seemed pretty obvious that he was dealing with the elbow thing that had been going on for like the past 14 months or something like that. He's got like chronic back issues and stuff. The man is just really beaten down by this game he loves. But like, supposedly he's on a like normal practice regimen right now, whereas last year I think they almost didn't practice him at all heading into week 1. Like, it was like, yeah, your load management is you're not gonna like play in the preseason, you're not gonna throw during camp. Whereas it seems like it's better this year. We like say that now, and then in week 7 he pops up on the injury report with an elbow thing, and we're all terrified. But like, I think he's a really strong ceiling bet. Whereas like Stroud's probably not a strong ceiling bet. Like, they're going to be a balanced team. He's probably not going to be super efficient. His receivers aren't great, even though we've made a bet on one of them. He can be fine, not help Stroud a lot, but just get a lot of targets. So I like if we can, swing it on this team, I like the Rams stack more.
Okay. That works for me. Yeah. The only downside to doing the Ram stack here is that then we won't be able to take Gerald Everett most likely. Like he's right in the range of like our next 2 picks. But I think we already have 2 Chargers.
Exactly. We have 2 Chargers, so it doesn't feel bad to miss out on him. Obviously, he's still like his points are worth more to us because they're also Justin Herbert points, and they also correlate with our receiver points. But it's not the end of the world for us to miss out on him.
Yeah. Okay. Same page. All right. Well, then we'll see if one of these Rams guys. Do you have a preference between Tyler Higbee or Van Jefferson?
Probably Van Jefferson.
Van Jefferson
I
just
don't
went.
like drafting Tyler Higbee, but also I feel better about drafting Tyler Higbee when we don't really need his points. Like we made a strong bet on Kyle Pitts being like the breakout tight end.
Right.
I'm fine saying Higbee throws in like 2-3 weeks and not feeling like we need him. Right. So
we could also skip Tyler Higbee, go with Dalton Schultz here, and then take another Rams receiver at the back of the draft. Take a Puka Nacua or Tutu Atwell at the end of the draft.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that too. The Athletics Jordan Rodriguez like specifically penciled in the number 3 role as like that's the one they actually want to come down to, like Puka or Tutu Atwell. Like they don't, at least the way she framed it was more so that like they want that guy to be the third player. The fourth receiver is not a threat to take out the third receiver, and that third receiver is the ones we care about in that we're drafting them. So
right. Okay, so here, what would be your preference? So we could either go Dalton Schultz and just take the stronger tight end. We could go Gerald. Oh, Dalton Schultz went. So we could go Gerald Everett and then Matthew Stafford and then take a Rams receiver at the end. Or we could take.
I would say we could also go Darnell Mooney here because he's 10 picks behind ADP. He's at the top of your board, close to it at least. Oh, so Zay Jones is also very far behind ADP. We should probably take Zay Jones 15 picks behind ADP.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah,
I don't hate Zay Jones.
Zay Jones.
I know like camp buzz doesn't mean anything, but like everything is like Zay Jones looks incredible in camp. Once again, he had a great, very, very strong season last year. I think the big concern for Zay Jones is obviously just that he's probably the wide receiver 3 now. But like he's good enough that I think
pick 140. He's being priced like the wide receiver 3, like cleanly. Right. And this is another offense. We're talking about like ascending offenses. Like really, if you like very much downweight Trevor Lawrence's rookie year, which I think you should. I think it was definitely the worst coaching staff of my lifetime.
Yes.
Of
your lifetime. Those are strong.
Yeah. Words. I mean, like Hugh Jackson Browns maybe has something to say about that. I think that's the worst, like coaching team pairing by like win percent. Cause they were like 1-31 or whatever, but, or something like that. They're close to it. But as far as like bungling a team so badly that like, you don't know who your players are or like what they do. And then like you kick a dude on the team. Like I think Hugh Jackson's just like strategically out of his league and not great, but like Urban Meyer actively hurt the future growth of his team potentially. It was so bad that like I think he's the worst coach of my lifetime.
I didn't know anything about him coming in. Like I thought it was like Urban Meyer. That's a name that I know from college. As somebody who doesn't watch college football, I was like, man, that's an exciting signing for the Jacksonville. And it became pretty apparent pretty quickly how bad he was for that team.
Yeah, I didn't think like this was not a prediction of mine. I was totally fine. I thought it made sense to some degree, and I was just wrong. He's just like didn't care. It wasn't even he was bad. He just didn't like actively sabotage his own team. He's terrible. So if you throw that out, what I was getting to is if you throw that out or at least downweight that and you say like more so Trevor Lawrence's rookie year was last year, that's an incredible start to a career. He looks like a future stud, if not already a stud. So
yeah, I've been drafting a lot of Trevor Lawrence this year. So I'm betting on the continued progress of Trevor Lawrence. All right, who's your preference here? If we have our choice between both of these guys, do we continue with our Chargers stack, or do you want to start?
Yeah, I think we continue with our Chargers stack here.
There's a chance that Stafford comes back to us too. Like it's unlikely,
absolutely.
but there's at least a chance there. And we've got the we could do a Kyler pick at some point. We could still land on CJ Stroud. So we have some outs for a late round stack to do. Oh, and I guess Atlanta too. Oh, Kyler just went, of course. So we no longer have that out, but we still have several. I didn't realize Darnell Mooney was still on the board. This has been an interesting draft.
Yeah, it's like the very opposite of the underdog draft in which like this summer we've seen just every receiver, like their ADP just continues to climb, like especially looking at like receiver 37 this year compared to last year.
Right.
We actually gotten some like receiver values in this draft. Nothing crazy though. But
no. Okay, Marvin Mims, he's been all over the board. I feel like his range of where he's being drafted right now is very wide. Marvin
I,
Mims.
I really want to be in on Mims. He like just came back from like the second hamstring injury of his offseason, but like he's actually someone you look at, kind of has like that, like Justin Ross. If you look early enough in his career, there's something that like almost no other players has done. Now he didn't have this sort of like medical reason for trailing off, and the trail, like neither of those things existed. That's why Justin Ross goes undrafted and Marvin Mims goes in the third round, day 2. But like
Right.
when you know, if you go to like the best the best freshman seasons of all times, like Marvin Mims efficiency wise is way up there. Never saw him like truly break out to like a 30. I don't think he ever hit the 30% college dominator threshold, which is pretty predictive. But his efficiency on like a per route basis is like jaw dropping.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess we could have taken him here, but you know, I feel good about you just really going all in on the Chargers offense. I feel like that was a good pick.
Mims would have been a little bit of a week 17 correlation for us too with our
That is
Chargers
true.
stack, but
Yeah, do we have any Chargers left? Like it used to be, you could always just like get a Chargers or sorry, a Broncos player at the end of the draft because you could either get Mims or Patrick or
get your Mims or
KJ
Patrick,
Hamler.
yeah.
Yeah, but now
We don't. And I don't
Patrick.
think we're going to get one. I don't think it's that big of a deal to not get a run back. Like the
Okay,
stacking with our own team is, I mean, far more correlated.
okay,
Even in week 17, it's more correlated. So obviously, all things considered, I'd rather have that week 17 correlation. But I wasn't going to reach to take Mims when we actually needed like our second tight end, and we're really good at receiver. We'll probably end up taking more, but we didn't need one there. Second tight end mattered, and Stafford's gonna probably make it to us. So
yeah.
I wouldn't
Do
do anything differently. I think we played it as correctly as we could.
I feel like every decision we made where it's come down to two players, it's been like, oh, the other player. I guess not every time, but like a lot of players have come back to us. Rashad Bateman, I feel like we would have gone with Sky Moore if we had noticed him, but other than that, I feel good about the way this has gone in general.
Yeah, and I think like I would have gone Sky Moore there too, but it wasn't like a strategical blunder. Like, oh, we have Mahomes with no one else stacked, and Sky Moore is the last chief or whatever. And at that point, I'm like, oh, we screwed up, and that this team is worse for it. Like the player takes stuff. Like I have players that I take stands on, and I've been trying to get a lot of Sky Moore, but also like Sky Moore is terrible last year. Couldn't get on the
I
field.
know.
Like
Yeah, I drafted
that's a
so much
very
Sky Moore
bad
last year.
sign. Yeah, and I had so much Sky Moore too. Like the fact that his team like really had a weak receiving room, they were invested in him and his success, and then they saw him play, and they're like, nope, you are not going to play for us. That's like a really big indictment. And like the players who are held under like, well, I think he had like 250 yards, like players who are held under 500 yards as rookies, like 300 yards as rookies, like they are in bad spots going forward. Like they don't often pan out. So I still like taking Sky Moore, definitely, because I'm also kind of hung up on my priors of him being a really good prospect. But like if he's a total zero this year, it would not be surprising, like at all.
Not at all. Yep. No, I'm with you. I drafted so much last year. He was a big disappointment. Now the hype is back just as strong as it was last year. Feels like Kyle Pitts all over again. Like, oh no, this year is going to be the year. And now I think you and I are both in on Kyle Pitts this year, it sounds like. But I mean, we drafted him for this team, but it's still just like it can happen where like the same guys get hyped over and over and over, and it just never hits. With Kyle Pitts, I think it's like the concern is injury. Like if he's healthy, I feel really good about Kyle Pitts.
I think so too.
What
do we got here at running back? We could, receiver, running back. We can totally end the draft right now with two each onesie position. I think we probably will end up doing that. So,
all right. So Jerome Ford got hurt today. Probably don't want to take him.
Tweaked his hammy or something like that, or I mean, could have been worse than that. That's like sort of maybe the optimistic projection. So no reason to take the plunge on him here. You know, it's not like he's like 20 picks behind ADP. Scroll up to the top, see what you got here. I'm fine with Tyjae Spears. Little week 17 correlation with our Nico Collins.
Oh yeah. All right.
But yeah, I just like Spears. I think like they had, like in the past years, they've definitely had, especially 2 years ago, they had that role carved out for like the third down back, because Derrick Henry up until last year was just like kind of a nothing. He's a good pass blocker, but he's just really inefficient as a route runner, even though sometimes he can like get out there and be a beast in space. Like he's just nothing until he gets the ball in his hands as a pass catcher. Like, and so I think there's definitely a role for that guy on the offense to play like 30% of the snaps. Who was the guy they had? I mean, they had him last year, but it was 2 years ago. He actually had like kind of a good season.
When on Tennessee?
Yep.
Had a good season.
I mean, like a good season, and he had like 3 long runs while playing behind the best running back in the league.
trying to remember what his name is.
I'll get it.
I feel like it's a funny name, kind of.
No,
the
it's
last
not
name is
Julius
long.
Chestnut, who is
It
very
is
funny.
Julius
It's
Chestnut. Who
Dontrell
I was
Hilliard.
thinking.
No,
Yeah,
but that's the
what I
funny
picked
one
up.
you're thinking of. Dontrell Hilliard. I kept on calling him Demetric Felton because they're both like Dontrell Hilliard's not like a hybrid player, but he is just out there to get like routes and some third downs and stuff. But he played like a pretty decent amount of snaps, and like, I'm in for that guy if this offense like looks like they're really going to be pretty solid. Like Ryan Tannehill is, I think, perennially underrated in that he fits this scheme pretty well, like consistently. That run play action, use Derrick Henry to load boxes, chuck it deep. Now they have guys that can actually do some of the chuck it deep stuff, other than like Treylon Burks played special team snaps his week one, like that dude, and he like couldn't get on the field because of his like quote asthma. Like last year is doomed to probably not be great.
Right.
But we've seen in the past, they're not going to have an AJ Brown, but can they approximate some version of having good receivers now with Treylon Burks in his second year, not failing his conditioning test, and DeAndre Hopkins? Like, I think this is probably a pretty good offense that's underrated for how cheap everyone really is outside of Hopkins, who's not like super expensive.
And I have no idea how important it is to have an ACL or knee cartilage or whatever Tyjae Spears is missing. People bring
Who
that up, and I'm like,
cares?
that sounds really bad, but I have no idea. And then if he's looking good in camp, so like maybe it doesn't matter. So
yeah, but they
who
spent like a
knows?
4th round pick on him, I think. And he's not like he's sitting out in camp or anything. Like I don't think they're worried about it for this year. So we shouldn't be. Are they thinking about this in 3 years when they're like, do we want to sign him to like 3 years,
Right.
15 million or whatever as like a good backup running back or whatever? Yeah, they probably are thinking about it then, but this is not then. So.
All right. So I think we need at least one more running back. Or do you agree with that? I mean, we started with a
really especially because I think we have the freedom to do that. We could go an extra. I wouldn't go an extra quarterback, but I really probably wouldn't go an extra tight end either. So I think we have the roster space to definitely go for that other running back. We can go Josh Kelly and get another Charger on this team.
I hadn't even thought about that. Do you like Josh Kelly better than Isaiah Spiller?
I do. I mean, they were like consistently healthy scratching Isaiah Spiller at the end of last year. Over the final 7 games, he played 2 offensive snaps, whereas Kelly played like 200 something and got like, 50 some, 60 some touches, and Spiller didn't get a touch. Like he was either inactive or just did not get a single snap in the final, like their playoff game or whatever. You can probably wait to take Kelly here. He's, 214.
True.
And
are there any other running backs you like? Do you want to take Chuba Hubbard? We already have 2.
Oh, I do like taking Chuba Hubbard, so I'm totally in for that.
All right. I'm a bye week bro. That's the only painful thing for me is that I am a bye week bro, and we already have 2 week 7 running backs. It's not a huge thing though, right? And we're going to take another running back, so we're going to have outs during week 7. Let's do it. Let's take Chuba.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've got Jacobs, Ryan Robinson. They're both like gonna get a lot of touches, guys. Especially like Ryan Robinson. Like he's the perfect guy to fill in. When like I need 13 points this week. He's probably gonna get you that. Is he like boom busting in the way that he can pass Tony Pollard for as many weeks?
Often. Yeah.
No.
Right. Remind me next time I'm on the clock, if I'm letting it run down to 0, remind me that I actually have to click it. One of the first drafts I did with Chris Wecht, we did a draft where it was like he talked me into some player and I was like, all right, I'm going to take him, and I let it run down, and then it took Robert Woods instead of, I think it might have been Joshua Kelly or some running back that he talked me into, and the reason is because I put positional limits on, so like which I didn't think would affect things if I am in the draft. I don't know why I thought this, but I just assumed like if I'm drafting live, like it's going to draft what I tell it to. Like if I put players in my queue, but that was not the case. It skipped over my queue because I had set it at, I think, a max of 5 or maybe 6 running backs, and then it took a wide receiver instead. So I learned that lesson the hard way. So I'll have to remember to actually click the button.
On this team, would you rather have 2 more wide receivers and get to 9, or 1 more running back? I'm pretty indifferent. I think
1 more running back. I like if we can get Joshua Kelly. I like Joshua Kelly for this team, and then just take who's your preference between Atwell and Puka Nacua? Because I don't really have one, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, I don't either. I think it's probably Puka because Atwell does not look like really another successful wide receiver in the NFL. He's just so small. Like he's like 8 and 150 something pounds or whatever. He's like tiny, and like I'll just kind of anchor to like there's never been a really successful version of this guy. I'm not going to try and bet on that too much. Not to say like I'm in love with Nacua or anything, but he's my preferred guy. See what else we have.
Who do you care more about here? Who do you care more about here?
Mix it up. We don't.
Like these guys all
Here,
have whoever we're taking is going to be well ahead of ADP. Who do you think is more likely to make it back to us between Kelly and Nakua?
maybe Nakua. Yeah. Check receiver not named these guys. See if there's anyone who's falling below P. Because like at a certain point, yeah, it doesn't really look like.
Devontae
Oh, we could get
Parker.
Devontae Parker. I draft a lot of Devontae Parker. I don't want a Devontae Parker.
I love those old.
I think I would take. I would take Parker over any of the guys in our queue and be fine missing out on one of them, whether it be the receiver from the Rims or Kelly. I would take Parker here.
All right, we'll do it. We'll do Devontae Parker. I do like Parker, and we got him past ADP, so I'm comfortable with that. So now, what do you think? So we have. What do you think?
Go ahead.
Do you still think? Do you still think we need one? Do you want one more running back or one more receiver? If we have the choice, I mean, it's probably where it's going to be the choice is made for us by our next pick, but
probably.
I guess we'll see.
I think I would go with another running back here. I don't have a strong preference though. I don't think we need either one. I think we did a pretty good job loading up at. Even though we got like good onesies, I think it was the fact that we basically didn't spend like meaningful capital on the tight end 2 or the quarterback 2, right. And we are still also not spending a lot of roster spots on those, like as minimal as I'd go. You could, I think for certain quarterbacks, you could go one quarterback and tank the buy, but
you think so? So to me, it's just like taking Tannehill in the 18th round is like, if you are tanking the quarterback, it's like, well, that's an automatic. It's not automatic, but like there's a good chance he's likely to get you like 18 points in your roster, right? And like, are there receivers at that point that you think are more likely to get you 18, like to beat out all the other receivers on your team to the tune of getting to 18 fantasy points throughout the year? And it's just I'm not confident that and of course you add in the likelihood of Tannehill outscoring your onesie quarterback some other week. I don't know.
I don't do it, but I don't think it's terrible. It was really good last year if you went like super elite quarterback just one time.
Was it? Yeah.
Yeah, it advanced really well, and really like I think that's most of the signal, because like looking at like how did it do in the final week, it's just going to tell us what happened in the final week. It's not going to tell us. But I do think you get a little more data. You're still finding out what happened last season, but at least you're getting a bigger sample of the whole season. Did really well. Elite quarterbacks were cheaper than they are now. And they generally crushed. Like if last year Mahomes broke his ankle in week 4, one elite quarterback would look a lot worse. But on the other hand, also, if Jalen Hurts didn't miss the end of the season, it looks a little better, especially in like the final stuff, which, like I said, is noisy, but interesting. What do you want to do here? I really don't care. I guess. Yeah, I guess I'd go running back, but it's like a total coin flip to me on which one is more important to our roster. I'll maybe especially say running back, since I mean the bye week stuff like definitely matters. Like we're losing out on potential points for 1 week. It's not the most important week. It's the middle of the season, but I'm fine with Josh Kelly.
All right. I also like the added correlation there. So I'm also good with that. Yeah. I mean, we also, obviously, if we had taken a Rams, we would have had correlation there as well. So we had some correlation piece options, but I feel good about this 2-6-8-2. I think that's, when we started with when we got Pollard and Jacobs so early, I would not have expected us to go with 6 running backs in total. But I think that we waited long enough on these last 3 that I feel like it's still a pretty good allocation of talent, draft capital to each position.
Yeah, I think if I had to go back and do it, maybe I flip the Brian Robinson pick for a receiver and then like flip the Parker pick for a running back. So we have like 4 super cheap running backs plus our 2 studs. But, we can't know exactly how the draft is going to play out. I don't think we made any big mistakes. And I like how this team turns out. I'm excited to get my cut of whatever is at least over $10,000.
Oh, easily over $10,000 for this one.
I will say, how far do you have to advance to get there? Like, I assume it's only the final round.
Final.
You have to make it.
You have to make it to the final. I don't even know. Like it's not min cashing the final. I know that much. That's like
exactly. I don't even think it's like that close. It is a few pay steps up, I think.
I've actually thought about changing, because I watched a stream that Liam Murphy was on somebody else's stream, and he was suggesting that like He's doing any team that makes the final, which I think is also a reasonable way to do it. He'll split like, which I'm like, I had thought of 10,000 first. After he said that, I was like, yeah, that kind of makes sense too. Like if your team makes the final, maybe just split it there. But I've been saying 10,000 all along, so I'm just sticking with it for now. But I think that's also a reasonable
yeah.
thought.
So here's you have to get to 50th out of how many entries are there in
600,000.
600,000? Yeah,
Yeah,
you have to get to
easy peasy.
50th, or you could also get it from the regular season payout, which you would have to get top 20 out of all the teams.
Right.
So I agree. The make the final rule is more fun. It's a good
It
entertainment.
is.
If I get to root on one of these teams together with you and it's just in the final, it's a little better for
Yeah.
entertainment purposes. But even like hunting me down for $500 if we get last place in the final, like, it would be kind of annoying. Like, imagine you get two teams and you're like, who did I draft these teams with? Like, give me
Right.
your Venmo. Like,
No, I'm
the dollar value itself is a good number you have set. It just does miss out a little bit on the entertainment
the
factor.
fun factor. Yeah, no, that's kind of what I was thinking. It was like, well, like to be able to sweat it together, it would be kind of fun, just like watch the final and like knowing that we have, once you make to the final, we have the same amount invested would be kind of
That's
fun.
true.
So
Yeah, yeah.
maybe I will change it, just like just for the fun factor.
Mhm.
Of course, I'll regret it if I win like $5,000 and it's like, fuck, now I got to pay somebody $2,500. But you know, for the fun factor, it's still probably worth it. So maybe I will end up maybe I'll switch it to just making the final. Any team that makes final, because really, like, what are the odds of making the final? Like if you're 150 maxing Best Ball Mania 4, it's like you have a 13% chance to make it to the final or something like that. So even
yeah, that checks out. I was gonna say, I know it's way less than like your expectation is one team. Your expectation is way under one.
Right.
So 13% like kind of checks out vibes based for me. So.
Yeah, that's I think that's about right. All right, so taking a look at the board real quick here, and actually let's take a look at our team first. So I feel pretty good about it. So we got Justin Herbert, Matthew Stafford as our quarterbacks, Tony Pollard, Josh Jacobs, Brian Robinson, Tyjae Spears, Chuba Hubbard, and Joshua Kelly as our running backs. Started strong at wide receiver with Cooper Kupp. We waited a couple rounds for our second wide receiver, Mike Williams, then took Quentin Johnson, Rashad Bateman. Then we kind of went on a wide receiver run. And it was this kind of worked out well for us that after Rashad Bateman, actually after Nico Collins, so we actually reached on Nico Collins a little bit, but then we got Zay Jones to fall to us after ADP. We got Devontae Parker after ADP. Rondell Moore, I guess we could have flipped Rondell Moore and Zay Jones, and like neither of them are actually that far off of ADP. But still, I feel like we got a lot of like pretty like high floor, reasonable ceiling guys with our later picks. And then tight end, I feel good about Kyle Pitts and Gerald Everett, as long as Kyle Pitts is not going to be, hurt for much of the season. As long as he's playing the games, I feel good about Kyle Pitts. So I feel pretty good about this team. How do you think you would grade this team?
This feels like a really good team. I think the one thing, Best Ball Bros will say is no week 17 correlation from opposing teams, but like I would guess the correlation of what we think, like the correlation of what we think of as a team's QB1 to an opposing wide receiver 3 from August, whatever today is, 8th or whatever, to December, whatever it is, 24th, whatever, pick a day. The correlation between those two things is probably really low. It's not nothing. And like, it's a bit of like a what do you win when you win type of thing, but we're going to be pretty bad at predicting like how correlated Justin Herbert's points are to Marvin Mims. We'll be better at predicting it for Daniel Jones, Cooper Kupp, because Daniel Jones is starting that game barring injury. And if he gets injured, your team doesn't even matter. And Cooper Kupp is the same way. Like he's 100% going to be the receiver 1, but like those opportunities didn't present themselves to us. We didn't have a choice to pair them up as much. Like maybe we could have found a way to work Daniel Jones in, but we weren't going to have his top pass catching option and Darren Waller. Like, I don't think it was a mistake in this room, the way things played out, to not get the week 17 correlation.
Yep, I'm with you, and I like the way you put that. Like, it's just the correlation. It's so hard this far in advance to really predict those kind of weak correlations. And yeah, it's a good point. Like the early round correlations probably a little bit stronger, but yeah, I think this is maybe the first draft that I've done where like we haven't really talked that much about the week 17 stuff, and I'm not totally sold on it. I've been talked into it a little bit more this year. The idea of week 17 in general, my thought process has been like, well, even like great DFS players don't necessarily force in the run back.
Absolutely.
So like we're trying to force it in this many weeks in advance seems a little bit silly to me when like you need to get your teams there in the first place. Like it's just like so far down the list of my priorities. I've been talked into it a little bit just because A couple Chad Maschke and Chris Weck. I don't know who's done the research exactly, but it's been shown that like not that many people are actually doing the bringbacks. Like it's like the correlation, like or the combinatronics, I guess, of the week 17 is not all that much stronger than just like randomly like
Mhm.
the odds of two players being on the same team. So then it's like, well, if nobody else is doing it, well, then maybe we should think about it a little more. But in general, if it doesn't fall to us, doesn't fall to us. I don't really feel the need to force the week 17 correlation. So yeah, I feel like this is a pretty strong team. I feel like every time I ask that question, everybody defaults to a B plus in general. Like if the draft goes well, yeah, I think it's a B plus. And I think that'd be a fair assessment of this draft. I would probably default to a B plus for this draft also.
Yeah, you could talk me into an A minus. I mean, I think this is a pretty strong team, and I think like the correlation between like quarterback and receiver one of same team is so much more valuable. Like I think the way you put it was perfect. Like yeah, like the best DFS players in no universe are they 100% forcing correlation, and that's when they know that Sunday morning who the
Right.
wide receiver one and the opposing wide receiver 2 or 3 are, and we have some ideas. Like I said, Cooper Kupp, we know is the wide receiver one. We have no clue. Like, dude, Lil Jordan Humphrey is 100% playing over Marvin Mims in week 17. Like, book it.
Right.
Sean Payton loves this
Yep.
dude. He brought him in from the Saints. Same with Marquez Callaway. He's bringing in so many Saints players. Like, Marvin Mims is going to have the sickest catch for 60 yards and a touchdown in week 16. And we're going to be like, oh, man, we missed out on all that correlation.
Right.
And he's benched for Lil Jordan Humphrey the next week.
Yeah.
Like, we just don't know as much as we think we do. The correlation certainly matters. I think it's probably overstated, though.
Yeah, no, I think we are on the same page as far as week 17 correlation. I had not even realized that both Marquez Callaway and Lil Jordan Humphrey came over. I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah.
Came over to
Adam
Denver from
Troutman
New
did.
Orleans.
I think they have Tony Jones.
I didn't even know.
Dude,
That is hilarious. I did not realize that. That's man, going to get his guys, just like Tom Thibodeau going out and gets his guys, brings them with him, whatever team he goes to. All right. I feel good about this draft, and I will add your name to it. So I don't really need to like track down who does it because I label the draft as like this one. I'll label it as Dvorchak, and then Herbert, Stafford. So like I'll be able to see right away. Oh, okay, this is the draft that I did with Kyle. So it won't be a lot of effort to track you down once we get to the finals with this draft, which we inevitably will. All right. Kyle, thank you very much for joining me on this draft. Pretty short notice. It was a lot of fun to draft, to do, to get together, to do a show again. It's been a little while for us. Where can people find you? What do you got going on?
Yeah, just find me on Twitter at Kyle Tweets here, or check out the Roto World Football Show. I got an article about like finding elite running back ceiling. Definitely like standing on the shoulders of giants of like Karain and Sean Siegel, taking a lot from their work, but adding to it as well. I'll have that article I talked about with rookie tight ends coming out, and I'll have articles about training camp updates coming out. So I'll tweet them all out as long as you follow me. You'll see it. But if not, check out, NBCsports.com and the Roto World section, and all of my stuff, plus the awesome stuff my colleagues put out, is there too.
Beautiful. All right. Follow Kyle on Twitter at Kyle Tweets here. He's putting out a lot of good content for you. So check it out if you're not already following him. Again, you can get first deposit match up to $100 using the code in the link in the description of this video. You're also going to get our fantasy football and best ball package along with that if you use our code when you sign up at Underdog, and hit the like button if you haven't already done so. Helps us out quite a bit. Thanks for watching. Good luck this year.